Every week, the world quietly says goodbye to people who helped shape our culture, our memories, and the moments we never forget. Some were household names, others worked behind the scenes, but each life left a mark that does not disappear with the headlines. This week, the losses span generations and industries, from television and film to music, sports, literature, and public service. These were careers that lasted decades, voices that defined eras, and stories that continue long after the final curtain. These are not rumors or speculation. These are confirmed passings, reported with care, respect, and verified dates, honoring the right of every family to privacy while recognizing the public lives these individuals lived. And while numbers can never measure a life, ages, years, and legacies remind us how much time, talent, and devotion each person gave to their craft and their communities. Now, let us begin by honoring those we lost. For decades, Catherine O'Hara brought warmth, wit, and a distinctly human touch to American screens. Her presence felt familiar, comforting, and timeless. Whether she was playing an eccentric socialite, a devoted mother, or a character quietly holding a story together from the edges of the frame, she first rose to national recognition through sketch comedy, where her sharp instincts and fearless creativity set her apart. From there, her career expanded effortlessly into film, where she became a defining figure in some of the most beloved comedies of the late 20th century. Audiences embraced her performances in Beetlejuice, Home Alone, and Best in Show, films that continue to be revisited year after year, not only for humor, but for heart. Later in her career, O'Hara found renewed acclaim on television as Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek. The role showcased her range in full, blending absurdity with vulnerability, and introduced her to a new generation of viewers. Her performance earned critical praise and multiple awards, cementing her status as one of the most respected comedic actresses of her era. Catherine O'Hara died on the 30th of January 2026 at her home in Los Angeles after a brief illness. She was 71 years old. Her passing marked the loss of an artist whose career was defined by longevity, discipline, and an unwavering respect for her craft. She leaves behind a body of work that continues to resonate across generations. Catherine O'Hara did more than entertain. She created characters that lived on long after the laughter faded. To millions of American viewers, Demond Wilson was a familiar face during the 1970s, appearing week after week in living rooms across the country. As Lamont Sanford on the hit sitcom Sanford and Son, he became known as the calm and steady presence in a household defined by constant chaos and sharp humor. Sanford and Son grew into one of the most influential sitcoms of its era, and Wilson's on-screen partnership with comedian Redd Foxx was central to its success. While Foxx delivered the explosive energy, Wilson anchored the show emotionally, giving the series balance and credibility. His portrayal reflected generational tension with warmth and restraint, a dynamic that resonated deeply with audiences. Beyond his most recognizable role, Wilson continued working in television with appearances in shows such as The New Odd Couple and Baby I'm Back. His career followed the shifting realities of television at the time, marked by changing formats and limited opportunities, yet sustained by consistency and professionalism. Away from acting, Wilson was a United States Army veteran who served during the Vietnam War, an experience that shaped his values and outlook. Demond Wilson died on the 30th of January 2026 at his home in Palm Springs, California, from complications related to prostate cancer. He was 79 years old. His passing marked the loss of an actor whose work helped define a formative chapter in American television history. Wilson is remembered not for seeking attention, but for bringing stability and authenticity to every role he played. His performances remain part of a shared cultural memory that continues to endure. Many moviegoers never knew his name, but they knew his voice. It appeared in theaters, on television, and in living rooms, wherever Spanish-language versions of major films were played. quietly shaping how audiences experienced some of the most recognizable characters of modern cinema. Alexis Ortega became widely known for providing the Spanish dubbing voice of Spider-Man in several Marvel films, including Spider-Man: Homecoming and Avengers: Infinity War. His work carried the energy, humor, and emotional weight of the character across languages, allowing Spanish-speaking audiences to connect with the story as naturally as the original version. He also contributed his voice to Spanish releases of films such as Big Hero 6 and Star Wars Rogue One. Working behind the microphone, rather than in front of the camera, Ortega belonged to a profession that often goes unnoticed. Yet within the dubbing community, he was respected for his discipline, consistency, and attention to detail. Colleagues remembered him as someone who treated voice acting as a craft, not a shortcut, understanding that every line carried responsibility to the story and the audience. Alexis Ortega died on the 26th of January 2026. He was 38 years old. His death came unexpectedly, leaving unfinished a career that still held promise and momentum. Though his face remained largely unseen, Ortega's voice continues to live on through films that are watched and revisited. In that way, his work endures, reminding audiences that some performances are felt most deeply when they are simply heard. His voice was one of the defining sounds of American rock radio in the late 1960s and early 1970s. When Chuck Negron stepped up to the microphone, songs did not simply play on the airwaves. They announced themselves bold and unmistakable, becoming part of a shared musical memory. Negron rose to prominence as one of the three lead vocalists of Three Dog Night, a band whose sound blended rock, pop, and soul into a style that dominated charts and filled arenas. His powerful delivery carried hits like Joy to the World, One, and an old-fashioned love song, tracks that became staples of American radio and remain instantly recognizable decades later. At the height of their success, Three Dog Night was one of the most played bands in the country. Behind the success, Negron's life reflected the pressures and excesses that surrounded fame during that era. The demands of touring, recording, and public expectation took a personal toll, shaping a career marked by both triumph and struggle. In later years, he spoke openly about survival, recovery, and the cost of sustaining success in an unforgiving industry. Chuck Negron died on the 2nd of February 2026 at his home in Los Angeles. He was 83 years old. His death was attributed to complications from heart failure and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, bringing an end to a life closely intertwined with one of rock music's most influential periods. Negron leaves behind a legacy defined by a voice that carried emotion, urgency, and unmistakable presence. Long after the final note fades, his recordings continue to echo, preserving a chapter of American music history shaped by sound, resilience, and lasting impact. Few artists moved as comfortably between music and imagery as LaMonte McLemore. His career unfolded across stages and studios, microphones and camera lenses, capturing both the sound and the look of an era that defined American popular culture. McLemore was a founding member of The Fifth Dimension, a vocal group whose polished harmonies and crossover appeal brought soul and pop together during the late 1960s and early 1970s. As the group's bass vocalist, he contributed to timeless hits such as Up, Up and Away, Aquarius Let the Sunshine In, and Wedding Bell Blues. These songs became staples of radio and television, soundtracking a period marked by optimism, experimentation, and cultural change. Beyond music, McLemore built a second career behind the camera. He became a respected photographer, spending decades documenting prominent figures for publications including Jet and Ebony magazines. Through his lens, he captured artists, athletes, and public figures with an intimacy that reflected both trust and artistic sensitivity. His photographs preserved moments that might otherwise have faded with time. LaMonte McLemore died on the 3rd of February 2026. At his home in Las Vegas. He was 90 years old. His death marked the passing of a rare creative voice whose work spanned multiple disciplines without losing authenticity in either. McLemore's legacy lives on, through songs that still fill the airwaves and images that continue to tell stories without words. In music and photography alike, he helped define how a generation sounded, looked, and remembered itself. The sound he helped create did not follow rules. It bent them, stretched them, and in many ways rewrote what funk music could be. Long before the genre found mainstream recognition, Billy Bass Nelson was already shaping its foundation from the inside. Nelson was the original bass guitarist for Funkadelic, a group that emerged at the crossroads of funk, rock, and psychedelic experimentation. His bass lines were not simply rhythmic support, they were melodic, aggressive, and deeply expressive, driving songs like Good Old Music and Friday Night, August 14th with a raw energy that set Funkadelic apart from anything else on the radio at the time. As one of the group's earliest members, he helped define a sound that would influence generations of musicians across multiple genres. While Funkadelic later evolved and expanded, Nelson's early contributions remained essential to the band's identity. His work laid the groundwork for a musical movement that challenged convention and celebrated creative freedom. Though he often worked outside the spotlight, his role in the group's formative years earned him lasting respect among fellow musicians and historians of funk. Billy Bass Nelson died on the 31st of January 2026. He was 75 years old. His passing marked the loss of a musician whose influence extended far beyond chart positions or commercial success. Nelson is remembered as a founding voice in the evolution of funk, a genre built on individuality, experimentation, and rhythm. Through recordings that continue to be rediscovered, his bass still speaks, reminding listeners where the groove began. His work was often heard by devoted fans before it was widely recognized by the mainstream. Parthenon Huxley built a career rooted in musicianship, collaboration, and respect for melody, contributing quietly but meaningfully to a lineage of progressive and classic rock. Huxley was best known for his work with Electric Light Orchestra Part 2 and later the Orchestra, projects formed by former members connected to the legacy of the original Electric Light Orchestra. As a guitarist and vocalist, he helped carry forward a sound defined by layered harmonies, polished arrangements, and a deep appreciation for classic songwriting. His performances appealed especially to listeners who valued continuity, craft, and fidelity to a beloved musical tradition. Outside of those collaborations, Huxley also maintained a solo career that earned praise within power pop and rock circles. His songwriting reflected clarity and restraint, favoring structure and melody over spectacle. Fellow musicians regarded him as dependable and thoughtful, someone who understood the balance between honoring the past and contributing something personal to it. Parthenon Huxley died on the 30th of January 2026. He was 70 years old. His passing marked the loss of an artist whose career may not have been defined by chart dominance, but by steady contribution and musical integrity. Huxley is remembered for helping keep a sound alive, not by imitation, but by care. Through recordings and performances that continue to circulate among fans, his work remains part of a musical conversation that spans generations. His name was rarely front and center, yet his work quietly shaped the sound of popular music at a pivotal moment. Bryan Loren belonged to a group of creators whose influence was felt most strongly behind the scenes, where songs were built, refined, and prepared for the world. Loren was a singer, songwriter, and producer whose career intersected with some of the most recognizable figures in music. He collaborated with Michael Jackson during the production of the album Dangerous, contributing to a creative period that helped define pop music in the early 1990s. One of his most widely known works was Do the Bartman, a top 20 hit connected to The Simpsons, which brought his songwriting to a global audience. In addition to his collaborations, Loren pursued his own recording career. His self-titled debut album, released in 1984, featured tracks such as Lollipop Louvre and Do You Really Love Me? While his solo work did not always command mainstream attention, it reflected a clear artistic voice and a commitment to craft that earned respect among peers and industry professionals. Bryan Loren died in January 2026. He was 59 years old. His death marked the loss of a creative force whose contributions were often heard before his name was known. Loren's legacy lives in songs that continue to play across decades, woven into the soundtracks of everyday life. Through collaboration and creation, he helped shape moments in music history that remain familiar, even when the spotlight pointed elsewhere. The game slowed down when Virgo stepped into the arena. Precision, patience, and personality defined his presence. Whether he was competing at the table or guiding viewers through the tension of a match from the commentary box, Virgo was one of England's most respected snooker players, achieving national championship success and earning his place among the sport's elite. Known for his tactical intelligence and composure under pressure, he became a familiar figure during a period when snooker commanded prime-time attention across British television. His achievements on the table reflected years of discipline in a sport where margins are measured in millimeters and moments can define entire careers. As his playing days gave way to broadcasting, Virgo transitioned seamlessly into commentary. He became a long-standing voice for the BBC, helping explain the nuances of the game to seasoned fans and newcomers alike. His clear explanations, enthusiasm, and ability to capture the drama of a single shot made him a trusted guide through countless tournaments. Many viewers came to associate the sound of his voice with the rhythm of the sport itself. Virgo died on the 4th of February 2026. In Spain, he was 79 years old. His death marked the loss of a figure who helped shape both the competitive and cultural identity of modern snooker. Virgo is remembered not only for how he played, but for how he shared the game with others. Through competition and commentary, he brought clarity, excitement, and respect to a sport built on focus and finesse. His music was not designed for charts or trends. It was created for moments of reflection, praise, and collective emotion, where voices came together in shared belief. For many worshippers, Kenoly's songs became inseparable from spiritual gatherings and personal devotion. Kenoly was widely respected in the world of gospel music as a singer, songwriter, and worship leader. His signature song, Ancient of Days, along with Anointing Fall on Me and Morning into Dancing, became staples in churches across the United States and beyond. Through recordings and live worship services, his music emphasized participation, inviting congregations to sing rather than simply listen. Beyond his recordings, Kenoly served as a worship leader at Jubilee Christian Center in San Jose, California, where his approach helped shape modern praise and worship practices. He also authored books focused on faith and worship, extending his influence beyond music into teaching and ministry. Those who worked with him described a leader who valued sincerity, discipline, and humility. Kenoly died on the 3rd of February 2026. He was 81 years old. His passing marked the loss of a figure whose work reached far beyond the stage, touching lives through faith, music, and community. Kenoly's legacy endures in songs that continue to be sung in churches around the world. In moments of joy, grief, and reflection, his music remains a steady presence, reminding listeners of the power of shared voice and belief. They are gone, but what they left behind continues to move among us. In songs that surface without warning, in performances we return to years later, in voices, images, and moments that still feel familiar even after time has passed. A life may end, but meaning rarely does. Time keeps moving, indifferent and steady. Still, some things refuse to disappear. A presence lingers. A memory settles in. Like the last light of evening, warm and gentle, holding on just long enough to be felt before it fades. Which of these lives stayed with you? Thank you for sharing this moment of remembrance. We will continue to honor the stories that live on, even after their final chapter is written.